Hey everyone, it's Jacqueline at Pixie Dust PhD. Recently, I've gotten a lot of questions of specific things about taking kids to Walt Disney World. I personally do not have kids of my own, so I can easily speak to logistics, but not really any actual experiences. I certainly have helped my friends with kids plan their trips, but I haven't tagged along. So I invited my friend Jen from Dilla's Diz to come talk about a few aspects I've gotten a lot of questions about. This will be a 3-part series, and in this first part, we are going to talk about something I've really never considered in Walt Disney World, which is strollers. Jen has 2 kids of her own, a 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. Jen also sometimes travels down to Disney World with her whole family, so including her brother, who also has a child, a 7-year-old daughter. I personally have never dealt with a stroller or a wheelchair or an ECV or scooter or anything like that at Disney World, so we've got a lot of good insights coming up from Jen. Let's talk about strollers at Walt Disney World. And I know, strollers in day-to-day life is one thing, but a trip to Walt Disney World is very different than day-to-day life.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little more exhausting, maybe a few more steps, no big deal.
Right. Yes.
So how do you approach, what's your stroller philosophy?
Maybe I should write a book about it. No, I kind of feel like any rules around strollers go out the window when it comes to Disney. Like, my kids haven't been in a stroller in a day-to-day capacity in years upon years, but last summer they were in a stroller in Disney World. Both, yes, because I have the double stroller,
7 and
so it's good. They
5?
were 5 and just turned 8.
Turned 8.
Yeah. And I mean, he's cramming himself in there, but he does it because he doesn't want to walk in the heat. So yeah, like, and if it was just him, no, but because we're like, 5, she could probably still get away with it. Oh, we'll just bring the double stroller, and this way we don't have to carry sweaty, tired kids out of the park at the end of a day or whatever. But so I kind of feel like stroller rules go out the window for that. But when
did your kids graduate out of strollers in like day-to-day life? Like what do you think is like a normal age? You can tell I don't have kids.
No, I think I would say like 4-ish.
4? Yeah, 4 to 5.
Yeah, maybe? Yeah. Because I'm trying to think, because my 6-year-old is in kindergarten. So I don't even know if I pushed her in a stroller at all in pre-K. So it probably, I would say maybe 4-ish at some point. So yeah. But I mean, in Disney, you have the heat, you have the long days, you have staying up later than they normally stay up, all of those things. Plus, quite honestly, it's a total perk for parents. And I'm more sad about letting them go at this point than probably they are, because
you can like store your stuff, or
you can store your Disney merch in the stroller. You have your cup holders if you're drinking around the world or whatever, soda, and having waters. You can hang your backpacks on them. There's a ton of perks for that. But for them, if it is really hot, they can sit in there, they can drink water, they can have a fan on them. And then we can also kind of just get to where we want to go next, especially in Epcot, if you're going country to country, or Future World, or whatever it will be called, to World Showcase. Or it's like, instead of being like, I'm so hot, it's like, let's just go. And we just push them until we get there. So there are some I do feel like the longer you keep the stroller, it is more of a perk as a parent than the kid. I mean, kind of, sort of, at least consciously. But yeah, we didn't bring the we didn't bring the cruise. We didn't bring the stroller on the cruise trip last August. So we had gone in July, the 4 of us, but then we did like a big Delos trip in August, and we left the strollers at home. So we did do some time in the parks, sans stroller for the first time ever. And I just didn't want to carry them on the cruise ship, like, especially being a double stroller. I'm like, where are we putting that?
It's not necessary.
No, and exactly. I would never use it on the cruise. So, and they did pretty well with it. And I think that was a good test. Like, we only went to the parks one day. We're very big on like the midday rest or nap. So we were in there in the morning and then like hung out at the pool and all of that kind of stuff. So I do think that was a good test. And I don't know if I would. We've talked like, I think we're probably done bringing the stroller at this point.
Even though the little one is just
right. So she's
6.
Like, right. So, and then I'm like, well, I guess maybe we could rent it if it really got to be an issue. But we might leave it home because I think the almost 9-year-old would cram himself in still, and people then would just judge me. So I don't know, but yeah.
And then I imagine this last summer when you had the double stroller and your elder, almost 9-year-old now, squished himself in. I imagine there was no problem with him and doing that. But then when he was younger, or with your current younger, is there any resistance to them being like, I don't want to deal with a stroller. Like, I'm a big kid now. I don't use a stroller at home. Why do we need this, Mom?
Right. I think it was probably more of a resistance around the toddler ages, only because then they're like, look, we can walk. We don't want to be tied up in the stroller. Where almost like then they get over that, and then they're like, oh yeah, push us around. This is fantastic. Why would we? So no, there's not really resistance. And I think last summer especially, we were like, well, we'll bring it, but we won't use it as much. And we'll use it that if we're doing we're in the back of Magic Kingdom and we got to go to the front gates. So let's just, those kind of treks, but we'll park it and then in like central locations. So I think that was beneficial, but they have not really. I do wonder now, though, if the 9-year-old would be. He just got cooler this year. So I feel like, maybe he would be resistant to it this year, but.
But if you brought a single stroller for his little sister, and
right.
he happened to sit in it now and again,
right.
that would
be like,
different.
maybe can I just take a turn, please? What if I sat in there? And yeah. So that could happen for sure.
So it sounds like a lot of your stroller use are those longer walk times. So you do a lot of like park it when you get in, and then we walk around the land and do the things, and then go back and fetch it, go to the next land, that kind of strategy.
Yes, for sure. And I do think that's it is good, especially where the stroller parking is. And just a heads up to parents, they may move your stroller. If you leave it in one spot, they may move your stroller to official stroller parking. I cannot speak today. Official stroller parking, because that's just, they like to keep it nice and orderly everywhere. So
very
if it
tidy,
disappears,
stroller lines.
Always. And you always know how crowded it is by how big the section of the strollers is that day. So yeah, but we kind of like to do that and then hop, if you're in like Fantasyland, you keep it by the carousel and you hop all around and then you move on to Tomorrowland or whatever it is. So yeah, that's super helpful, I think.
Yeah. And then I think I've never rented a stroller at Walt Disney World, but from what I can tell, it's same with the wheelchairs, is that if you rent one from Disney, like you're at Magic Kingdom and you want to rent a stroller or a wheelchair, you're more than welcome to use it within Magic Kingdom. But then as soon as you leave, you have to return it. So you can't even take it out to the parking lot. Not that the parking lot at Magic Kingdom exists, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
You can't take back to your resort. You can't roll it out of the park to your car if you have one. So then it sounds like you bring your own stroller from home?
Yeah, we've always brought the stroller. So we have been taking the kids since they were months old. So we have always traveled with them. And again, I think it has been a convenience, and we will take that stroller right up to the plane and then like gate check it. So then it's right there when they were babies and they would fall asleep on the plane and we're carrying them out or whatever. It just was always easier to just grab the stroller, put them in and go. I traveled back from Disney once solo with them, and they were like 1 and 3-ish at the time. And I was like, oh my God, if I didn't have a stroller with both of them, this would not be that enjoyable. So yeah, we have always done that. And partially to save on the money of renting them, partially because of the airport. The airports are not short walks, or, you're never just hopping in and getting right onto the plane or whatever it is. So there's that. And we did drive down a couple of years ago and we still took it with us that way. We did consider, we have some friends that live in Orlando and we're like, should we just leave the stroller down here? It's not like we're using it. We didn't. But yeah, so there's a lot of rental companies in the area as well, where I know you can then kind of rent them for your whole stay. I personally have never looked into any of them, so I can't recommend specific ones, but I know people do that, and it's similar for scooters as well, that there's rental companies outside of Disney if you wanted to go that route. But
it seems better to me, whether it's stroller or wheelchair or scooter, to like be able to take it outside the park. I've always thought that was a really strange limitation. I understand it's easier for them to keep inventory, but especially, if I'm staying at the Polynesian resort. Like if I'm staying on property, you can tag the scooter or the wheelchair or whatever it is to my Disney experience account or something. And then I'm just like responsible for bringing it back at the end. And if I don't, you hit me with a huge fine. Like I think it's very strange the way that they do it.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's also like the transportation not really being equipped for the strollers that Disney has, because a lot of the strollers are like big plastic, like they're not folding, they're not doing anything. So to like take them on a bus, can't really do that. And so you could, I mean, they could just have strollers that you could do that with, but so maybe that's like, oh well, you couldn't take it anyway, so I guess you got to go rent the other one. But no, I agree, especially when people have park hoppers as part of their tickets, and you know, it is kind of weird to like, I gotta do this whole process again at the next park, you know. So
yeah. For sure. And then, so obviously you have 2 kids. Yes. When you graduated from 1 to 2, did you find that adjustment of like having 2 stroller age children to be quite difficult? Was that much harder, or that's just parenting and you got used to it?
Yeah, I think it's probably just parenting and we got used to it, and we have gone through well, maybe we just had 2 double strollers. Like we had tried one where it was kind of longer, and we were like, oh well, this will be good for getting through doorways and stuff, and it was the most annoying stroller to take around Disney ever. So then we like upgraded to the wider one, but it was like meant for travel, so it's very light and it's easy to fold, and it's not too wide and all that kind of stuff. So you know, those little things to look into are good as well. I know a lot of people have feelings about strollers in Disney, but I think there are strollers out there that are super convenient for that. And again, I do think it's almost harder not having your kids in the stroller. One, like Disney is a crowded place. When they're in the stroller, you know where they are. You're not worried about them walking off somewhere. You're not worried about anything. If they're still at a nap age, you can just have them take a nap in the, you know, stroller. You don't have to go back to your hotel. You don't have to do that if you wanted to continue to walk around and check some stuff out. So I find them to be more convenient than not, personally.
That's good. I can imagine it'd be easier to, even if it's a double wide, push a double wide stroller around than like lug napping kids around.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have memories of my dad carrying me up the ramp to the monorail at Magic Kingdom. Like, I know I was that kid at the end of the day. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing that, especially when it's hot and like you just have sweaty, heavy bodies on you. And, you know, I'd rather not.
Yeah. And you mentioned it briefly in terms of transportation. And for the most part, I think you have to fold your strollers up to go on the forms of transportation. Although I don't think the monorail, I feel like people go on with their strollers there.
Push that one right on.
Is that like a huge consideration for you? Whether that's like which double wide stroller are we bringing, or which stroller are we bringing? Which stroller did we buy, or what transportation are we going to take?
Yeah, I think so. And I think we are more of the rental car folk than the public transportation, but we will regardless take the monorail and stuff like that. So yeah, I think if it was the bus, I think our stroller that we have would probably be okay. But the idea of like taking out the kids and folding up the stroller, like that does sound exhausting to me. And I think we've maybe done it once, but or twice. But yeah, I think that definitely could play to it, because if you have just a really bulky stroller, that's going to be really tiring, like especially when you're online at the end of it and you're like, oh, we gotta fold this up and get it on, hurry and get the kids, and like whatever. But it can be crazy.
And then I think from what I can recall, strollers mostly aren't allowed in the attraction lines, right? So you park your stroller and then you still have to stand in line. Have you run into problems with, especially when they were younger, like, well, we're 2 years old and we are tired and we're in this 40-minute line.
Right. Yeah. So I think I will always come from the place of, I have the privilege that we have gone to Disney many times. I am not coming from a place of, we have waited years to be here. So I am always like, if they're sleeping, if they're tired, I'm not forcing them to do anything. So, and we also wouldn't wait on lines that were too long. And at this point, as my son is almost 9, so as he's gotten older, we have discovered the DOS Pass, because he has sensory issues, and waiting on lines when we took the trip in 2021, it was the first time we had been in 2 years. And so we realized like how hard it is on him to stand on a line and how much that messes with him. So we were like, well, this isn't really working. And that wasn't even that long of a line. So we are also thankful for the DOS Pass for that. But yeah, I personally wouldn't wait on long lines with little kids. I mean, you see them, everybody sees them. They're not happy. They're not happy there. So luckily there are Lightning Lane and all the things now that you can kind of try to help with that, or just look for the short lines.
I think it's funny. Like, I know my niece is 4 and her mood can just change on a dime, right? She's like the happiest, cutest kid. And then like one thing happens and she's devastated. And I'm just thinking about like standing in, in a 30-minute line with her if that switches and we don't have a stroller to put her in to settle her down or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, this sounds hard. I am not the parent.
Sure. Yes. And I don't think we've had any like escapes of children. My son, when we did another Delos trip in 2018, so my son was probably 3 or 4 at the time, and we were waiting online for Kylo Ren for a little bit, and we got in to see him, but as soon as he saw him, he was like, oh, absolutely not, and went running in the opposite direction through the queue. So then I ran after him that way. But I think that's the only time that we've had to probably that's probably not the only time we've had to exit a line, but it was more for like being overwhelmed in some way like that. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I think kids are really excited, like, oh, we're gonna go on this ride, and then it's a half hour in. It's like, what are we doing here? What's happening? It's a lot. We're like that. So.
Well, awesome. Do you have any other stroller wisdom you'd like to share?
Oh, let me think. I think I got everything I was thinking covered. Yeah,
those were some good tidbits.
Yeah, I think get away with it for as long as you can. I mean, it's really going to help you, because are you just going to like fight with your kids, especially if your kids are like 5 and under? Like, don't put them, like, just do it. Just have it for, especially in the summer, especially during like at night and all that kind of stuff. Like, you're gonna really want that for yourself at the end of the day. Yeah,
and it seems like I would certainly be on team. We're bringing the stroller from home, we'll deal with gate checking it at the airport, but then you have it all the time. I think that's just so much smoother for everyone involved, and it's your stroller, which is nice. Like, it
exactly. Yeah, and they sell all the bags for gate checks now, or you just put them in cute little bags, so you don't, I mean, some people do just toss the stroller on, and that's fine. And I think we have forgotten a gate bag where we've had to do it, but they do sell them, so you can cover it all up and put your stuff in there, and the cup holders won't disappear under the plane and or anything like that. So
things I've not had to think about. Right? Well, awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yay.
I hope you found this helpful. I thought it was really interesting how Jen highlighted that the stroller was kind of a perk for the adults. Be sure to follow all things Delos Diz. That is the podcast Jen does with her brother, Frank. The primary one that may interest you is Theme Park Thursday, where they mostly talk about Walt Disney World. But you can find Delos Diz on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the things. I will leave links down below. And if you want to interact specifically with Jen, she is on Twitter and Instagram at JenIllo and on TikTok at JenIlloTalk. We've got a couple more of these conversations focused on kids at Walt Disney World with Jen coming, so if you did enjoy it, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. You can then ring the bell icon to receive notifications whenever I upload new videos, so you'll know when the next conversation with Jen drops. Thanks for your support of the channel. I really appreciate it. I hope the rest of your day is magical, and we'll see you real soon at Pixie Dust PhD.